Tradition, conservation, family, the outdoors. It matters to you. It matters to us. This is Hunting Matters, presented by Houston Safari Club Foundation. Here's Joe Bitar.
Good morning. Welcome back to Hunting Matters on KPRC 950. I'm your host, Joe Bitar.
I am Ramon Robles.
How's it going today, Ramon?
It's going very well.
Yeah?
A little nervous. I'm doing a fish fry tomorrow. Not fish fry, chicken fry. Do you call them chicken fries?
Chicken fries.
I mean, if you say fish fry, you can say chicken fry.
Chicken
right?
fry.
We're doing chicken fry. I hunted it, I stocked it, killed it, skinned it, field dressed it, everything.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna fry it tomorrow.
You didn't kill it.
No, I did not. But I did cut it.
You just stuck a knife through the plastic.
I did quarter
wrap.
it, and it felt like I was field dressing a deer out in the country.
Were you playing sound effects in the background of wild chickens?
I was
rushing through the brush.
Yep, that's exactly what I was doing. I felt like a man. Don't knock it.
Well, you are a man. I don't know, man. Every time I come in here on the weekends, it feels like I'm climbing into a proverbial clown car with you. I just I never know what's gonna.
I'm consistently inconsistent. Yes.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's so weird you said that because actually I got an invitation from a guy this week who said, "Hey, we wanted to invite you to our annual chicken fry." I'm like, two things. Number one, I was honored to be asked to come. Number two is you're only cooking chicken once a year.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because in my house, it's like a weekly event.
Is that true?
Oh, yeah.
See, this week I realized that I have literally 4 cast iron pans that I've never fried chicken in them. And I have literally a 2-pound box of that bacon up,
right? Which
is, I don't know if you know what that is. It's bacon grease, basically. And so it's like I got the pans, I got the grease,
right?
I just need the chicken and people to eat.
Well, what time should I be there?
We eat at 11 tomorrow.
Cool.
Come on.
I'm in. Chicken and favorite sides?
Corn on the cob.
Yeah.
Mashed taters.
You got to have mashed potatoes.
Yeah.
Gravy.
Yeah, gravy, of course.
Okay. Yeah. Because my wife will be angry if she shows up and there's no gravy.
No, I don't want your wife mad at me.
No, I think her blood count is probably about 25% brown gravy.
Oh, cool.
Growing up in the South,
yeah,
so she's very slick, very smooth because of the gravy, gravy quotient.
Smooth like gravy. Yeah.
Anyway, man, what's been going on? It's hammered by the rains off and on all weekend.
Yeah.
And, that's kind of shut down my yard work. Situation.
Oh, you got to be upset about that.
No, I don't mind. I like being outside. Run outside and get some mulch in the ground whenever it stops raining, and then run back in, I guess. But
somebody told Randy Lemon from our sister station here at KTRH told me you shouldn't have landscapers mow your yard because they bring the fungus and stuff from other yards into your yard. Mm-hmm. The people who don't take care of their yard, because we're regimented. We're doing the fertilizer schedule, everything. Right. And he says, now be careful. If you get somebody to mow your yard, you're bringing in all that other stuff from other people's grass.
Sounds like the zebra mussel problem here in Texas when people pull their boats out of the water and they don't clean zebra mussels off of them.
See, I didn't know that was a thing.
There you go. Well, if I come to your house and you've got zebra mussels all over your yard, we're going to have a real problem because
I didn't know that's what that was called.
Zebra mussels. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they get on the boats. You pull them out of the water. You're supposed to clean them off. And if you don't and you got mussels and a Parks and Wildlife agent pulls you over, you're getting a ticket.
Is that right?
Yeah, because they're an invasive species.
Yeah.
So.
See, that's why I don't have a boat.
There's your tip for the day.
Yeah.
Anyway, as far as Houston Safari Club Foundation going on, folks go to the website at wehuntwegive.org. There's a monthly event scheduled every month except July. We've got a lot of cool things coming up. If you're not a member, sign up to be a member. We raise money to be able to take kids hunting and fishing and do scholarship programs as well as conservation grants all over the world. So one of the things we decided this week is that we do a sporting clays tournament every year, and the one that's coming up in October of this year is going to be called Crushing Clays for Youth. We're going to start raising money through that event just for students. So youth outdoor education programs in schools. We're going to be hosting some high school shooting teams, and it's going to be a real cool event. I'm looking forward to that, and with a big focus on youth outdoor education. So
very cool.
That'll be cool.
I look forward to not being invited to that one either.
Well, you can come. You just won't be able to shoot. But, folks, you can go to We Hunt, We Give. That's wehuntwegive.org to learn more about it. So I'm excited about our guest today. Mike Ambrose, or Michael Ambrose, the formal name, but I've always known him as Mike Ambrose. Mike is a member of the Houston Safari Club Foundation and has had a very I wouldn't say checkered past, but colorful past.
Colorful, yeah.
Yeah, and I've visited Mike actually in his home. I've been honored to be in his home before, and learned a little bit about him. But we're going to learn a lot more about him today. So, Mike, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Morning, Joe. How you doing?
I'm good, man. Good. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I was tested positive for COVID here a little more than a week ago, 10 days ago. So I'm still in the middle of quarantine.
Yeah.
So just sitting here in my trophy room, enjoying it. So there's worse places to be for sure.
Oh yeah. We were looking forward to having you in the studio, but these things happen. So we're glad you're home and asymptomatic and feeling okay. So.
Yep.
So, Mike, you how long have you lived in the Houston area?
Since 1991.
Okay.
I moved here when I stopped jumping over the side of barges as a commercial diver. Lived in Louisiana and a small farm in Mississippi for a few years before I left there when I was working in the offshore industry and moved into the office and came to Houston as that's where the office was based at that time.
Okay, and you've been a member of Houston Safari Club for how long?
I think since 2006 or 2007 when I started hunting big game animals.
Okay, and was it somebody that's told you about the organization, or did you seek it out, or how did you find out about it?
Yeah, Greg Rodriguez at the time was a member here. I think he was actually president of an SCI organization as well. So when I fell head over heels for the hunting thing, I got into all the organizations, joined most organizations in Texas and hunting organizations that support conservation as a life member.
Awesome. And you didn't grow up hunting big game, did you?
No. Central Illinois, rabbits and pheasants. Back in the day, the farming methods in Central Illinois made those animals prevalent. My uncle had a 180-acre farm, as most people made their living in the country that way. And so we hunted rabbits and pheasants in the winter. Now they've changed their planting methods, and they've taken all the fences out in Illinois and Iowa and plowed ditch to ditch, and what's happened is it's left a lot more wooded plots and questionable land to go a bit wild, and it's done away with all the brush and cover for the pheasants and the rabbits. And so now they got deer.
There you go. You got deer.
I guess they have deer in Illinois now where they never used to.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with our guest, Mike Ambrose, on Hunting Matters on KPRC 950. Good morning. Welcome back to Hunting Matters on KPRC 950. I'm your host, Joe Bitar.
I'm Ramon Robles.
And we are joined today by Houston Safari. Well, he's more than just a Houston Safari Club member. He's a lot more than that. Our guest today is Mike Ambrose. Mike, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
No problem, Joe. Glad to be here.
Mike, if you could eat one breakfast food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Bacon.
My man, it didn't even take a second to think about that.
Not a hesitation.
Good for you. I was afraid you were going to say granola or something.
No, not me.
God love you.
So, Mike, we were talking before we took a break there. You grew up, you grew up hunting small game and graduated to big game, which I want to come back to in a little bit. But I want to talk a little bit about your past. You're a former U.S. Navy SEAL, and if I've got my dates correct, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, I think SEAL Team 1 was formed back in 1962, and you became a member of the team in 1966. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. It was the very end of 62. They actually classified as 63, I believe, but yeah.
Okay, and so Ramon and I talk. We're big movie fans and television watchers and all that sort of thing, and we've seen all the portrayals of the SEAL teams. I've got some friends who are, recently retired from SEALs and have known several of the guys and have a kid in the Navy right now. But all these SEAL team movies and the television series and things like that, I'm sure that there's an over glorification, dramatization to some of these things we see. But I'm just curious, what was it like when the SEAL teams first formed in the early days, the training and that sort of thing?
The training is, believe it or not, nearly identical today as it was then.
Wow.
Maybe on my 50th anniversary of graduating from SEAL training, I went back to the only reunion that I've ever gone to with my late wife in California, and I actually walked more than ran down the beach to from the Del Coronado Hotel to the training center on the beach side, which you could get in, and they were having a training unit ongoing at that point in time, and some of the instructors actually, asked me what I was doing there, and this and that one thing, and I just said, well, I came for the 50th reunion, and this and that one thing and another, and at the end of the day, I asked them what the training was like, and he said, we're not allowed to jump in the IBSs when you guys come across the rocks anymore. Other than that, it's all the same, man.
Can you watch a movie about SEALs without judging the way they're portrayed on screen?
Could not for years. Chose not to.
Yeah.
It wasn't like it gave me bad feelings or anything like that. Just wasn't depicted well. And to this day, there's some that I've been able to tolerate. A couple of them I've watched. It's not my habit. But Act of Valor is the real deal. Yeah. You watch Act of Valor, and you're seeing what's going on.
It was real SEALs that filmed it, right?
Yes, to the best of my knowledge.
Yeah.
That's what they say.
Yeah, right.
And they used the real SEALs as actors, and I think it was written. One of the writers was a SEAL, and that was a very, very good, very well done movie. So, after your military service, you became a commercial diver. How did you make that transition?
Really wasn't hard. They told me when I got out, the military gives you a suggestion on what you can do. I could either become a mercenary or a commercial diver. I played the other game. So, and a good friend of mine had been a diving tender and lived in Belle Chasse, Louisiana, and I was infatuated with his sister at the time, and so one thing led to another. I ended up in his home in Belle Chasse, Louisiana, and went into the diving industry and as a tender, hired on as a tender. Just my qualifications as a SEAL were enough to get me to that entry-level position.
You know, when you think back, I mean, it's been several years, but it also hasn't been that far away. You know, when you hear some of the astronauts talk about their early space flights, it's like they say, "Look, guys, you know, you probably got more technology in the phone you've got in your back pocket than what we flew into space with. We were basically flying into space with a computerized washing machine." I mean, I think the same could be said for dive technology. I can't imagine, you know, what you guys did and how difficult it was with the equipment that you had. I'm sure it was, you know, got the job done, but I mean, you know, tell us a little bit about that. How much the equipment and the techniques and things have changed since you were doing commercial diving.
Well, they haven't. Commercial diving has changed. It's not utilized anywhere near as much as it used to be. The infrastructure put into the ocean to support oil field activity was never designed for any kind of intervention other than manned intervention. In the beginning, when I started diving, from shallow water to deep water, we were just able to go deeper and deeper, less oxygen in your mix, more helium, and physiologically, the diving has been the same forever and ever. It's how your metabolism handles it on that day, whether you have a problem, get bent, or whatever. Diving at the beginning of my career, I think my second year into it, saturation diving, where you are placed under pressure and live there for weeks, months, occasionally at a time. and are transferred to and from the bottom from the deck of the barge has become the norm and the modern way to do most diving from 100 feet down on big, complex tasks. And it is heavy construction for the most part.
And you've done, Ramon and I were kind of talking, you've done multiple dives over 1,000 feet, right?
I've done, maybe 10 or 11. Most of it was in the North Sea, over 1,000 feet. Brazil, I worked for a year in excess of 800 and 900 feet. It's a deep water reserve there, reservoirs they have down there. So that was some of the deepest I've done. Been to more than 500 in California and in the Gulf of Mexico, but mostly 300-400 foot of water and 200-300 foot of water. In the beginning, I was diving in the swamps, trying to get wet in the bayous of Louisiana and Texas. So, yeah.
How does a dive change from being 300 feet to being 1,000 feet? Aside from the obvious.
Well, I'm not sure how I answer that. It's wherever the infrastructure is and wherever the project is, whether they're laying a pipeline to a platform or laying a pipeline to an underwater connection so that it can junction off and go to platforms. Whether it's a wellhead in 1,000 foot of water, you need to tie the pipeline in so it goes back to the platform that's in 300 foot of water, because it costs less to put a platform in 300 foot of water than it does 1,000 foot of water, and the remote wells just bring the product back to the platform to be sent onto trunk lines gone on into shore base. So we handle everything from the beach out, everything underwater or underground, basically. Is what a diver works on.
I'm just curious because I've had buddies over the years that were done a little bit of commercial diving, not to the extent that you've done it. But I ask every diver this dumb question: what's the freakiest thing, Mike, you've ever seen on a dive?
Well, the freakiest thing that ever happened to me was I was on a platform removal project, and the oil comes out of the ground through a series of smaller diluted pipeline conductors, they're called, that come straight up out of the well, filled with concrete. And I was merely cutting rings of the steel, knocking the concrete out, cutting the next ring, so we could remove and salvage this at about the mud line. And about 1,000-pound grouper or jewfish, never could really determine which one was which. They all look the same in the murky down there. Decided that he wanted to get closer to the little flame that the oxyarch was making, and he just sat on me and pushed me right straight down into the mud. And
wow.
Just actually, you're breathing through a diaphragm, a little rubber diaphragm on your mask. It's quite simple process, but when you put pressure on it from the outside and mud fills it, it's pretty hard to suck air.
Ooh.
So
well, I can imagine.
Few anxious moments there, but finally he just released me, so to speak.
Wow. 1,000 pounds of grouper. That ain't cool. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break here on Hunting Matters on KPRC 950. We'll be right back with our guest, Mike Ambrose. Good morning. Welcome back to Hunting Matters on KPRC 950. I'm your host, Joe Vitar.
I am Ramon Robles.
We are talking today with our buddy Mike Ambrose. Good morning, Mike. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Joe. Yourself?
Oh, good, man. Good, man. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us. And we've been talking to Ramon a little bit about Mike and his background and kind of how he got started hunting and some of his adventures as a diver. And, Mike, a man can only dive so long. So how long were you involved in commercial diving?
I started in 1969 when I got out of the service, and I didn't make my last dive in 1991, but I moved into management at that point in time.
Management, loosely translated, meaning they shuffled you off to a desk job?
They offered me a desk job. They did. I was moved into operations management in Houston, Texas, with the company.
Well, that's got to be tough. Yeah, being so active like you were, and the military, and then the commercial diving business. I don't know. Were you ready for that, or you kind of like, I guess it's just the next phase?
I quit every day for 3 months, and my boss talked me back into it every night with a shot of Crown Royal.
Oh, there you go. Crown will do that to you. Yeah, I can imagine, having being in the water every day or almost every day in your career, and then they're like, well, let's move you to a desk job here. Mm-hmm. And even now, since I've known you just for a few years, you don't seem like the guy that sits well. Is the way I would describe it. So,
well, you thought the big thing was you thought you knew exactly what was needed out there, and it's just a lot more difficult to implement what seems very simple and very straightforward to you across the entire company and across the entire set of personalities. So,
sure.
It was a simple project when I took it. And it became complex the moment that I walked through the door, and it took a long time to figure it out.
Yeah, I can imagine. So, Mike, you grew up hunting small game, birds and rabbits and that sort of thing, and then you later in life, as many of us do, you kind of change your hunting perspective. I didn't start bow hunting until I was much older. Never did it as a kid, and you transitioned to big game. What was it that got you into big game? Was it something you always dreamed about, or was it something that somebody else introduced you to? Tell us a little bit about that.
When I came to Louisiana, I got into duck hunting passionately. Greatest place in the world for it. And after a year, I was all in: lease, boats, equipment, everything. And I worked offshore. So I would literally, first day of duck season, I was gone. I went to the camp. I stayed there for the last day of duck season every year. That was my routine. No work. So I did that for a number of years, and then finally a friend of mine asked me to go to Buffalo Horn Ranch, which was an Ovis ranch in Colorado, and hunt a mule deer with him. I basically said, my wife and I would love to go to this ranch with you. It's Orvis. We will hunt pheasant and chucker and that sort of thing, but I got no interest in shooting a deer. Mm-hmm. I had not shot a rifle in vain since I left the service. So but I went with him, and one thing led to another. They put me in front of a mule deer on the first afternoon. I didn't know a mule deer from a cow, basically, at that point in time, but the rancher said it's a 200 class mule deer, and my buddy said, "No, you can't shoot that on the first day." And to this day, I've never seen another one of those, and that one probably lived his life out in peace.
Yeah, 200-inch mule deer, that's a rarity.
Yeah, even more so today than it was then, but still.
Yeah.
I finally took a decent mule deer this year, but it was a 185 class, wonderful deer and a wonderful hunt. But yeah, so that's how I got into it. And from the time I pulled the trigger on a much smaller deer I shot at that time, I was hooked. It was actually sad to see what took place since then. I went all in. As when I get into something, pretty much it's all in. So that's what I did.
Right. And so did you? How long was it from that first deer hunt for mule deer? How long was it till you took the next big step to hunting internationally?
I got on a lease with another oil field buddy of mine, hunted that year on a lease in South Texas, Webb County. Convinced him to go on a hunt that winter. Well, it was a New Zealand winter, so I think it was April or May. Down to New Zealand to shoot red stag and some sheep and et cetera. And so we did, had a wonderful time, and it was Katie bar the door after that.
Yeah, New Zealand tends to do that to you. I've made one trip over there, but it's so incredibly beautiful, and the terrain and the people and it just I kind of had the same experience the first time I ever bear hunted. I thought I'll I'll go bow hunt a bear in Canada, get that out of my system, and then I came home. My wife goes, "How's your hunt?" I'm like, I booked another one.
Absolutely. Yeah. I probably could have. If I wouldn't have gone to Africa the next trip, I probably could have. My life might have been a little bit different, but there's no glue on the envelope of sealing a deal like one trip to Africa.
How many times have you been?
17, I think. I could be wrong, but somewhere in that area.
Yeah.
I have my diamond in Africa. I've pretty much hunted every single thing there is in Africa. 16 countries, I think.
16 countries.
Wow, y'all make going to Africa seem so ordinary. Like, I'm going to go to the hill country and go hunt. I went to Africa. I mean, there's got to be a lot of detail into all that, right? I mean, a lot of preparing, a lot of planning. I'm talking.
There is, but there is. Mostly it's dreaming, getting yourself excited. Once you sign on, put your deposit down with a good outfitter. Finding the good outfitter is the best thing, and you never know that till it's all over. But they take care of everything. They've got you. They're some of the best professionals in the world. It's their job, and they know how to do it.
Can you explain for those who have never been to Africa, what is it that draws you in, that hooks you and keeps you going back?
Well, the experience of a different culture, the people. I think the first thing that you learn so much more about the African people than you ever thought. You thought you knew things living here, but you don't. So it's a cultural experience as well as seeing all the wild places that there are, miles and thousands of miles and square miles of pristine land with predators and animals of all natures, everything you've dreamed about from watching. I forget the name of the insurance company that used to have a show
Mutual
that I watched
of Omaha.
when I was a kid on. Yeah, Mutual of Omaha. There you go. And so I grew up with those things. Illinois, one TV set, one radio or one TV station for about the first 10 years of my life, and that was on. So everything that was on, you got into, and so not only that, but it's luxury in its own way. You are well taken care of. You are not sleeping in a tent. You're not sleeping on the ground. You're fed well. It is affordable to a degree once you're older and established in your career. I never could have afforded it when I was young. I never would have had the time to do it when I was young. So there are things that work against it. I would love to have been able to do it when I was young because I would have been in much better shape and I'd have been able to even enjoy it more. But every form of refuge has its price.
Right. Excuse me. Mike, you've been to Africa numerous times, as we just discussed. I'd like to get your take on, your opinion on people that regulate or that impose their opinions on wild game management. I want to talk about that on the other side after the break because we're about to hit a break here. But think about this when we're in the break, Mike, because I know you've got opinions on this, as most people who have been to Africa and have met the people there and have understood what's going on. We're going to come back on the other side of the break, and we're going to talk about the people in other countries having opinions on regulating and managing the wildlife population over in Africa. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back with our guest, Mike Ambrose, and we're going to talk about that on the other side on Hunting Matters, KPRC 950.
I hear the drums echoing tonight. Well, I built me her raft and she's ready for flow. Oh, Mississippi, she's calling my name. Catfish are jumping, that paddle wheel bumping. Black water keep rolling on past just the same. Oh, black water keep on
Welcome back to Hunting Matters on KPRC 950. Bringing us in with a little wind chime action there?
Yeah.
Sweet.
More songs need wind chimes.
Yeah. And cowbell.
Yeah, of course.
Always more
Obviously,
cowbell. Surprised you hadn't played any cowbell for us this morning, Ramon. Welcome back to Hunting Matters on KPRC 950. I'm your host, Joe Bitar.
I am Ramon Robles. I wish you would stop booking guests who make me feel inadequate in my life.
Well,
like this morning, we're talking to Michael Ambrose, and I'm just reading over his life, and it's like I've done nothing.
You're kind of like, what have I done with myself?
I'm looking forward to making fried chicken tomorrow. I mean,
Right.
That's going to be the highlight of my year so far.
Well, according to Mike, if you fry it in bacon fat, he'll be there too.
Yeah. Well, come on, Mike.
Well, I'd love to. I have a little bit of a problem at the moment. I'm going to have to pass.
Oh, that's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
you are being quarantined.
Next time.
Well, maybe Ramon, if he was a good guy, he'd show up at your house with a platter of
Drop
fried
it off.
chicken.
Yeah.
That's right.
I'll do that.
Yeah,
You've earned it.
Drop it on the curb,
Yeah. Chickens for closers. I got you, Michael.
There you go. There you go. So, Mike, before we went into the break, we were talking about perceptions or misperceptions of people who've never been to Africa, don't know anything about game management, and I'm kind of pointing out a few obvious examples there. But I'd like to hear your take on when you hear somebody from the U.S. or from any country that's saying, you guys shouldn't do this in Africa, you shouldn't hunt, you shouldn't do this, and blah, 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 blah. I'd like to hear your take on that whole situation.
Well, it's a world that don't have any background or any environment that someone else is living in come in with their opinions as if it was something that they could fix. So most people in the world who have these opinions have never lived in a tribal structure. This is the choice of the African people. This is what they have. Their civilization has developed within the means that it has. It's had exposure to all sorts of other societies and opportunities to change from socialism to democracy to all kinds of different things. It is still chooses its people and its to go on with its heritage and remain a tribal structure, which gives it a very unique social distinction, and it's living with one of the wildest populations of wild animals in the world. So you have to understand what motivates these people to not eat everything that is there and basically starve themselves to death. As that would be that would be the result. So the rest of the world has come in, and we have done lots of things and spent lots of charity, and much of it is really great, but it has not changed the way that most Africans they have not become a democracy. They have not become what everybody else has. They have not become farmers and planters to any great degree. So people have to understand that if you give somebody something, you have prevented them from earning it. You have prevented them from ever doing anything except accepting your gift. So the gift is wasted as far as I see. So much help could be given to the people, but it needs to be in the form that it is empowering the people in Africa to change their social structure. If you think the rest of the social structure in the world is good, I personally do, most of it, but to try to tell these people how to get along with their environment the way that it's been done is incorrect, and it is very defeating, and it has been a very serious issue and a problem.
Yeah, I think you framed it perfectly, because we think about from a hunting perspective, we think about things and have certain beliefs and certain opinions, but I think you framed it very well as far as a social hierarchy, a tribal structure, a civilization that has existed, the same way and has not progressed or changed. Progressed is the wrong word, but changed as much as most nations have. So I think you framed that very, very well.
Yeah, the population continues to grow. So the population, if the resource is the wild game and that's the food source, the population is far out expanding the ability for the population of the wild creatures to keep up with it and be able to maintain itself as that food source. So that's the complex issue that they are in right now. So the hunting community offers a very easy way. We pay money for them to leave the animals on the ground and exist on this fine planet. We take only the old and never the young, and we do everything that we possibly can through our conservation efforts and our harvesting targets to expand the population or keep the populations at the level that they're at and provide income through work and other government-supported activities and schools and all of this sort of thing so that the community can continue to grow and leave the animals alone and let them not to be preyed upon. Because as human nature is, most people, unlike hunters take the hardest. Most people will take the point of least resistance. And when non-professional hunters and Africans are harvesting animals, they will take the weak, the females, the young, harming the social structure of the animal community itself to the point where it is non-recoverable.
Yeah, that's you're exactly right. You're exactly right. Well, I'm going to turn the tables here just a little bit as we wrap up the show here in the next couple of minutes. Speaking of resistance, you've had some health challenges here over the past few years, and you've overcome them. You've hunted sheep in the past, and you've actually hunted sheep since your since your medical challenges. How in the world do you recover from that and stay motivated to continue to hunt the way you do and the type of hunting that you do?
I'm motivated. I decided at 70 I was going to start mountain hunting. I completely had the thing totally wrong. So it's not from being right, and it's not from being scientific about it. I was completely wrong, but that's where the passion led me. So when I was 72, I was diagnosed with pulmonary fibrosis, and I was terminal, and I needed a lung transplant, and I got it 1 year ago. And so my bucket list was the 3 Mongolian argalis. Before I would get on the transplant list, I wanted to do that in case I didn't make it, and got on, made it. And so I've hunted a couple sheep since then, and got 3 more sheep booked. My career is coming to an end, really, at the end of the day. This is not a cheap sport, and so I can outlive my money, so I'm going to have to rein in my desires a little bit and become a little bit more frugal. But I do have goals, and I am going to get the Grand Slam North America. After that, we'll calm things down a little bit.
Right. Well, God bless you, man. Keep pushing forward. Keep pushing forward. We typically like to end the show with a kind of a nonsensical question, so we're going to ask you today, Mike. You're out in a remote location. You got a pack for an overnight trip. You can only take 3 things. What are the 3 things you're putting in your pack?
My medications now, believe it or not, I absolutely have to have those to stay alive.
Yep.
My satellite communicator.
Yep.
And my phone.
There you go.
Okay.
All right, man. Well, Mike Ambrose has been our guest today. Mike, thank you so much for joining us. Folks, thank you for listening. Don't forget to listen to the podcast version of this program. Rate us, subscribe to us, tell your friends about it. We'll see you next week here on Hunting Matters on KPRC 950.